Alrighty, well, hello sinners. Sorry, how are ya? On today's installment of the Letterboard of Truth, our quote of the day is... Sorry for the janky setup, by the way. Prager you, more like Prager ew, so suck on that, Dennis. I don't know if you've noticed, but the world isn't nice to fat people. That's it. I could literally end the video right there. But it's true. Fat people are treated like shit. Let's discuss. There seems to be never-ending discourse regarding fatness and fatphobia, whether it's people calling out instances of fatphobia or engaging in fatphobic behaviors themselves. We'll be focusing on the latter today as we react to a video titled Honest Reactions to Fat Acceptance TikToks. Before we delve further, let's establish a few things for context. What is fatphobia? What are the three main anti-fatphobic movements? And what are the pushbacks against anti-fatphobia? I'll make sure to include timestamps in the description in case you'd like to skip around. But before we continue, let's hear from today's sponsor. Hello! Not only am I wearing a different shirt, but my different shirt happens to match the sponsor of today's video, ExpressVPN. Twitter. Ever heard of it? That's what the teens are using these days, right? What if I told you that over 100 high-profile Twitter users were hacked recently, and valuable information such as passwords, email addresses, phone numbers, and more were stolen? Unfortunately, these attacks are becoming more common and more severe, with other companies such as Facebook, eBay, Yahoo, and Adobe. If all these big companies can get hacked, then how easy is it for someone to hack you? One of the simplest and best ways you can protect yourself is by using ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is an app that funnels your data through a secure encrypted tunnel so that no matter what device you use, you can have peace of mind every time you use the internet. For less than $7 a month, you can also access thousands of new shows and movies on Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and many other streaming services. How is that possible? Well, ExpressVPN allows you to change your virtual location. You can choose from nearly 100 different countries, giving you access to content that isn't available in your region. And I have definitely been taking advantage of this feature. For example, I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but it isn't available on Netflix in the United States. But after clicking a few buttons, suddenly I'm in Toronto watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine no problem. Protect your personal data with ExpressVPN, the VPN rated #1 by TechRadar, The Verge, and countless others. So make sure you go to expressvpn.com/aforcino right now, and you can arm yourself with an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. Thank you so much to ExpressVPN for supporting my channel, and thank you, the viewers at home, for listening to this message. Now let's get back to your scheduled programming. For starters, according to the Boston Medical Center, fatphobia is the implicit and explicit bias of overweight individuals that is rooted in a sense of blame and presumed moral failing. Being overweight and/or fat is highly stigmatized in Western culture. Anti-fatness is intrinsically linked to anti-blackness, racism, classism, misogyny, and many other systems of oppression. Anti-fatness contributes to individuals not receiving adequate health care for a number of reasons. 1, the assumption is if someone is overweight, they cannot be healthy. 2, clinical care teams typically lack experience in treating diverse body sizes. 3, weight-related structural barriers like the size of exam tables, gowns, blood pressure cuffs, and scale limits. The 3 predominant movements fighting against fatphobia are body positivity, body neutrality, and fat liberation. Body positivity is a social movement focused on the acceptance of all bodies, and the goal is to show that all bodies are beautiful, regardless of shape, size, age, skin tone, gender, and physical abilities. The current body positivity movement took our culture by storm starting in 2012 as the amount of users on social media increased. I'm sure you've seen certain hashtags floating around Instagram, such as hashtag BOPO, hashtag all bodies are beautiful, hashtag health at every size, so on and so forth. However, body positivity isn't all rainbows and sunshine. Some people criticize the body positivity movement due to, in their opinion, how certain activists promote toxic positivity. Body positivity has also been criticized for its lack of diversity. Sure, the main premise is to expand society's view of beauty, which I think is great. However, usually the main people highlighted in this movement are thin, white, able-bodied, cisgender women. This can lead to the exclusion of people of color, cis men, transgender folks, and disabled individuals. While this next movement also challenges traditional beauty standards, body neutrality focuses less on appearance and more on the body's function. Body neutrality encourages folks to have a neutral outlook on their bodies. Forcing yourself to be satisfied with your body all the time is a lot of pressure to put on yourself. In fact, it can be quite frustrating, especially as your body changes due to factors out of your control, such as aging. You won't always feel great about your body, and that's totally fine. That's human. Finally, we have fat liberation, also known as the fat rights movement. Fat liberation is considered a political movement, unlike body positivity and body neutrality, which are social movements. Historically, fat liberation is why we have the body positivity and body neutrality movements today. The fat rights movement began in the 1960s, spearheaded by the National Association to Advance Fat People. NAFA is located in New York and campaigns for fat acceptance, which is a form of activism that fights against anti-fat bias and exposes and challenges the barriers fat people face in society. Some of these barriers include harsher jail sentences, especially for fat women, lower income, again specifically for fat women, lower overall college acceptance rates, being stereotyped as lazy, lack of accessible tools, furniture, and machinery, and finally, medical fatphobia. Medical fatphobia can include denying fat patients their proper treatment or dismissing their symptoms altogether. These conditions can be worse for fat folks in other marginalized communities. However, there's been quite a bit of pushback against these anti-fat phobia movements, especially with how popular hashtag body positivity is on social media. The main criticism is that these movements promote unhealthy lifestyles. We'll address this later in further detail, but overall, weight isn't the only factor that determines health. Believe it or not, some fat people are healthier than some skinny people. Others are just genetically predisposed to having a larger body type. Yes, there is scientific data which shows that having excess body fat can make you more susceptible to diabetes, cardiovascular disease, mobility issues, and breathing problems. However, this doesn't mean that one's weight always causes these conditions. Most people don't deny this. These are facts after all, but there's a lot of nuance when it comes to weight and health, which again, we'll divulge on later. Regardless, it is not your place to judge, comment, or shame someone for their weight, especially since you don't know everyone's circumstances. Plus, it's really not that hard to be a decent person. I mean, maybe it is for some of you, but not for most of us. This finally brings us to the topic at hand. So if you stuck around for that whole tangent, I appreciate you listening. We'll be watching a clip from a YouTube show called Unapologetic, a prager special hosted by former leftist Amala Ekpunobi. Why is our society suddenly pretending like being obese is perfectly healthy in order to avoid hurting people's feelings? Today, I'm joined by YouTuber Alex Pierce, also known as HRH Collection, to watch TikToks promoting the body positivity or fat acceptance movement and give our honest reactions. Amala seems to be a newer character in the PragerU cinematic universe. You know, the same university run by a white man upset that he can't say the N-word?
Why didn't I say K-word?
Why didn't you say like the K-word?
Because the left has made it impossible to say the N-word any longer. That's disgusting. It's a farce. It's the only word that you can't say in the English language.
In the same fake university that platformed two conservative commentators who compared the transgender experience to having schizophrenia.
Right.
That's where
change the bathroom signs now, right?
Change
because
the
this
bathroom
person, this person now needs to feel like there's a place for them to go that's safe. And I'm like, could you imagine a world? Take it out of the trans debate where we had to now accommodate everyone that was suffering with schizophrenia, and we needed to make the world look like as they were seeing it, or the voices that they were hearing.
First of all, the real irony here is that if transgenderism is true, then there's no such thing as homosexuality.
I'm sure many of you recognize Candace Owens in the previous clip. However, if you're unfamiliar with the gentleman she's speaking to, consider him the Kevin Jonas of the three head clowns at the Daily Wire. But this segment is particularly special because Amala is joined by HRH Collection, who is quite a polarizing internet personality. Even if you've never seen her before, you've definitely heard her before.
And you guys are so fucking dumb. Anyone who has a come back to that better just shut the up.
Duh. Like, it's like, you like air.
I have a lot of friends. I have so many gay friends, like really good gay friends out there who,
If you are a straight male and you are on TikTok, there's something wrong with you.
when are people going to be like, this is stupid? It doesn't make sense. Take off your jeans and throw them away, because you know a white person made jeans. Don't wear them anymore, you idiots. Gay, like, what is it? Gay rights or something?
Many people on the internet praise Alex for being an anti-influencer, as she is not one to hold her tongue.
Like Mexican people, they're like, oh, essay or whatever. And yes, I can. And yes, I can say that.
So, she seems like the perfect guest for a PragerU video. And with that, let's watch the video.
I never see men being like, I'm fighting for the right to be fat.
Yeah.
You notice that, right?
Yeah. It's
Unfortunately, that's because men are often left out of the conversation, even though plenty of men experience body image issues. In fact, 1 out of 1,000 men struggle with anorexia nervosa. Body image issues in men are something that can start early. Studies have shown that around 25% of male adolescents were worried about their bodies, wanting more toned and defined muscles, while approximately 30% of high school-aged males expressed a desire to gain weight to appear more muscular. We get into adulthood, and the statistics don't become any less bleak. A survey of 2,102 adult males by the Mental Health Foundation in the United Kingdom found that 28% of respondents experienced some anxiety over their body image. Thoughts of suicide were reported by 11%, while 4% intentionally hurt themselves as a result of body image concerns. In the UK, a 2021 study by the Campaign Against Living Miserably found that almost half of men had struggled with body image, while 58% said that the pandemic had negatively affected how they felt about their bodies. A lot of men are hesitant to reach out and get help because they're taught from an early age to suppress their emotions, which is why there aren't a lot of men at the forefront of the body positivity movement.
So let's get into this first one. This one has to do with airplanes.
So the other day, I had my first experience with airplane fat phobia. Basically, I got on this plane home.
Is anyone else questioning the microphone situation going on? Like, what are the XLR cables plugged into? Is Spider-Man on the production crew? Like, what the f***?
I was in one of the last boarding groups, so I was one of the last people to actually get on the flight. And I had a window seat, so there were 2 people sitting in the row next to me. And I walked up and I said, "Hi, I think this is my seat." And one of them goes, "Oh, Jesus," under his breath. Like, he's already very upset that I'm even here.
Oh, great. Here we go with the high school mean girl behavior. Do you genuinely think it's okay to talk to another human this way just because they're fat?
At one point, the woman sitting directly next to me starts looking for her seatbelt. I'm sure that's what she was doing, but she just kept shoving her hand in between the seats and inadvertently touching me, touching my stomach, the whole time, and it made me very, very uncomfortable.
Your stomach's there.
Pretty soon they end up waving
Inadvertently.
down.
But it's still inappropriate to touch a stranger, especially since we're still in the middle of a pandemic. The passenger next to this person could have asked, "Oh, I'm looking for my seatbelt. Do you mind getting up for a second?" She could have just been polite instead of making a scene and getting in this TikToker's personal space. So I'm gonna quickly sum up this next part just because Amala and Alex don't really add any commentary besides grimacing at the camera. The passengers next to this person asked the flight attendant if they could switch seats, but since the flight was full, it might be hard to find new seats. The flight attendant then said she'll see what she can do.
Once again, they're saying things like, oh, I hope it can happen, just really hammering it home that they don't want to sit next to me. Eventually, the flight attendant comes back, gives them new seats, and they are so excited. They get up and they go, what a relief, which leaves me crying. Because I had the audacity to be fat next to people on a plane.
That's not what it is.
On the bright side, I got a whole row to myself, but God, at what cost?
At what cost? Okay.
Let's make a prediction. What do you think these two ladies will say? Will they be sympathetic towards this person since she dealt with inappropriate touching and passive-aggressive remarks? Or will they show zero empathy and continue to shit on this person for having the audacity to exist while fat? Let's see.
I approach it lighter than maybe Savannah or Alex are gonna may approach the subject matter. But honestly, it's just an inconvenience at that point. And if you are going to be buying a plane ticket, buy two.
Not everyone is in the financial position to buy a second plane ticket, though. Economically speaking, when you are buying a plane ticket, you are paying for the space, which is why some airlines require larger folks to upgrade or buy two tickets. However, airplane seating has gotten a lot smaller over the years, and even for the average size person, airplane seating can be quite snug. So this is more of an accessibility issue than anything.
Buy two plane tickets, and that's not on the onus of the airline.
Why can they inconvenience other people? And
Right.
she wasn't touching your stomach because she wanted to touch your stomach. Believe me, okay? No one's gonna touch your stomach. She was probably trying to get her seatbelt.
Right.
And that's not comfortable to be crammed in a coach seat, I'm assuming, next to you, okay? Like, I don't, so we have to be inconvenienced and not for you because you're overweight?
I'm gonna say it right now. Coach seating sucks. Flying in general can be uncomfortable unless you upgrade to business class or above, which, like I said, not everybody has the luxury to do so. Some tall people also have issues with fitting into airplane seating due to the lack of legroom, but you almost never hear them being brought up in these conversations. I wonder why.
I'm gonna just straight out say, I used to be fat, okay? You guys know if you've been following me on YouTube for a long time, you can see the progression. I was fat, probably 40 pounds bigger. I lost it. And so I can talk about this because I'm come from experience, all right? I was never like that.
Being overweight in the past does not give you the authority to talk down to current fat folks. If Alex is happy with her current body, that's great. Good for her. But that doesn't mean she can just be nasty to everyone who's heavier than her. I mean, would Alex like it if someone talked about her the way she's talking about this current TikToker? I don't think so.
But it's all laziness, okay? People are lazy. She is lazy. That's why she's fat. She has no self-control. That's all it is, okay? So if you choose to be like that, you have to deal with the consequences of people not wanting to be crammed in a coach seat next to you.
Okay, let's unpack this. Does Alex know this TikToker? No? So why is she assuming that this person is lazy? There are many factors that can affect someone's weight. Genetics, medication, age, race, sleep patterns, location. Some people live in food deserts and don't have access to grocery stores with nutritional options. Certain medical conditions can cause someone's weight to fluctuate. Mental health is a huge factor as well. In addition, if the TikToker featured is AFAB, that could also contribute to her size as well, since those assigned female at birth store their fat in different places as opposed to AMAB individuals. But the bottom line is, You don't know this person. Claiming that she's lazy is a bold and, quite frankly, rude assumption to make.
It just seems like with everything in life, with all of this woke ideology, it's like I've decided to...
Take me for me.
Yeah.
What? No.
Also, I've decided to suspend reality, and now that has to be your reality.
What does suspending reality have to do with anything? This TikToker was venting about the mistreatment she experienced on the plane due to her size. She wasn't making any claims regarding obesity. Why is it considered woke to be polite to others? I genuinely don't get it.
Like, I've chosen these new pronouns, and now you have to take them on.
When did we add trans people to the mix? It appears you skipped a couple steps, ma'am. You know, as baffled and confused as I am, let's see how Amala and Alex make this the trans community's fault.
I'm sorry, but that's not the way it
Clown
works.
world. This is clown world.
It is clown world, and it's just simply not good for you. Like, I would be having a back and forth battle if it was actually something you're advocating for that's, like, good for people, but it's not good for people. We know the outcomes are not good.
And stop. I'm so sick of people saying that they're healthy when they're obese.
Right.
It's not true.
Right.
Listen, most folks are aware of the risks of having excess body fat. But like I mentioned earlier, health and weight aren't black and white issues. It's quite the generalization to peg every single overweight person as unhealthy. The overall goal of the fat acceptance movement is to eliminate bias against fatness and to show society that plus-size folks deserve respect, kindness, proper medical care, and accessibility.
I have thin privilege.
What? But I'm so fat. I'm like a size 20, 22. How can I possibly have thin privilege? Because there are people who are fatter than me. When I go up on a plane, I might need a seatbelt extender. I might be uncomfortable. I may not feel good. People may say things to me. But I don't need to buy a second seat or risk getting kicked off the plane. That means that I have privilege compared to people who have that experience. You may not even need a seatbelt extender. If that's the case, then you have privilege compared to me.
Oh, I just love that it's like a privilege Olympics now that we live in this day and age. Like, we're just constantly fighting, battling to find out who's the most oppressed among us.
I mean, it's not the privilege Olympics. This creator is just acknowledging that she experiences less hardships than those who are bigger than her.
And how come all of a sudden in the past, 3 years, everyone is, so, fat and, ugly, and everyone has to accept it? All of a sudden, right?
What? Before I speak, Alex is just throwing ad hominem attack after ad hominem attack, and Amala's sitting there laughing. I feel like I'm back in my high school cafeteria listening in on the Mean Girls table. Maybe I'm just some fatty who doesn't live in reality, but I don't think calling everyone who disagrees with you ugly is an adequate response. Maybe that's just me, though.
This whole thing with the privilege and being fat and the plane thing and stuff, that no one was talking about this before. All of a sudden it's everyone can just be fat and gross and you have to accept me and I'm pretty. No, you're not. Okay, you're lazy and you're choosing to be like that. You don't have to be obese, okay?
Body positivity specifically has become quite mainstream over the past few years thanks to social media, which has opened the floor to discussions regarding fat phobia. But like we learned earlier, the fat rights movement has been around since the 60s, so this has been a conversation. And yeah, a lot of larger people, specifically those who pursue a weight loss journey, remain at the same weight, but that's due to a lot of factors. We discussed earlier how many things can affect one's weight, such as genetics, illness, mental health, and socioeconomic status. But specifically for larger folks who do pursue a weight loss journey, it can be difficult and unfruitful. According to Healthline, there was a study done at Sandoz Pharmaceuticals, and 3 years after participants concluded a weight loss program, only 12% had kept off at least 75% of the weight they'd lost, while 40% had gained back more weight than they had originally lost. Another study found that 5 years after a group of women lost weight during a 6-month weight loss program, they weighed 7.9 pounds more than their starting weight on average. It also doesn't help that the diet industry promotes disordered eating patterns. So many folks wind up paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for weight loss programs that only hindered them from meeting their goals. Finally, and this might come as a shock to you, Some people just don't want to lose weight. Plenty of fat folks are happy and confident just the way they are, and that's okay. Fat and ugly are not synonymous after all, because beauty comes in many forms. Anyone of any size, shape, gender, skin color, age, and physical ability is allowed to feel good about themselves. It's not right for Alex to deem every plus-size person as ugly just because they don't fit her standards. If anything, this attitude is ugly. The way she and Amala are talking about fat folks right now is highly unappealing to me. So in this next section, after Amala and Alex reacted to a third TikTok, the conversation begins to turn to eating disorders, implicitly referring to anorexia. I will be skipping over this part due to the sensitive nature of eating disorders. I know I put a heavy trigger warning at the very start, but I still understand that this is a heavy topic for many folks. As someone who has never dealt with anorexia specifically, I don't feel comfortable discussing something I don't have experience with, and I would rather not misspeak and potentially hurt those who do suffer from it. On the contrary, I do feel comfortable talking about fatphobia, especially as an overweight person who has dealt with it for most of my life. I mean, just look at the comments on my Andrew Tate video. That's not funny. That's not funny. Anyway, I will link the original video down below if you would like to see that for yourself. But for now, we're going to continue and power through this last portion of the video because my God, I don't know how much more of this I can take.
Quick one. Here we go.
Friendly reminder that you do not need to lose weight to do anything that you want to do in life. Want to go on a vacation? Don't need to lose weight. Want to wear a bikini? Don't need to lose weight. Want to go on a date? Don't need to lose weight. You are enough and can start living your life right now.
I don't see anything wrong with that statement, so I don't know why they're snickering like two 7th graders gossiping at recess. Fat people are entitled to enjoy their lives just like anyone else. They don't have to run and hide in shame just because they don't fit conventional beauty standards. Ugh, I can't wait to see what they have to say.
I mean, it's just mean and bad advice because it's not the right thing to do, okay?
Mean? Oh, you want to talk about mean? The lady who's been calling every single TikToker in this video ugly and lazy wants to reprimand others for being mean? We've seen it all, folks. It's official. The call is coming from inside the house. Alex is the last person who should become the teacher in this situation. Holy shit, the lack of cognitive dissonance. I can't.
Like, if she actually cared, she would say being overweight and obese or whatever is not good for anything, for any reason. If you want to have a healthy relationship with yourself, with someone else, then no, being fat is not right, okay?
Right.
It's not.
One thing I hate is when people excuse their fat phobia under the guise of caring about the well-being of your fellow neighbor. Well, isn't that so f***ing sweet? Well, I'm here to tell you, you're full of shit.
You're so full of the toilet's jealous.
Please do not be fooled. These ladies don't actually care about the health of fat folks. Alex isn't calling us ugly fatties out of the goodness of her heart. I could tell you that much. If Amala and Alex actually want to help plus-size people get healthier, then they should know that body shaming has the opposite effect. For example, according to the National Library of Medicine, anti-fat bias is rampant in all parts of society, including medicine, said Angela Alberga, an assistant professor in the Department of Health, Kinesiology, and Applied Physiology at Concordia University. More than 3 in 5 adults with obesity encounter weight bias from health professionals, according to Obesity Canada. Some medical ethicists even argue that this social pressure is justified to promote weight loss. But the harms of fat shaming are well documented, Alberga said. Studies show that exposure to weight bias triggers physiological and behavioral changes linked to poor metabolic health and increased weight gain. You actually experience a form of stress, Alberga explained. Cortisol spikes, self-control drops, and the risk of binge eating increases, she said. The more people are exposed to weight bias and discrimination, the the more likely they are to gain weight and become obese, even if they were thin to begin with. They're also more likely to die from any cause, regardless of their body mass index. Fat shaming is also linked to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, eating disorders, and exercise avoidance, Alberga said. There's emerging evidence that the severity of harm increases when people internalize weight bias and turn it on themselves. In one study, participants with high levels of internalization of weight bias had 3 times greater odds of having metabolic syndrome than those with low levels, even after controlling for BMI and other risk factors. So, maybe bullying fat people doesn't help.
I mean, yeah, you can go to the beach, you can go on a vacation being fat, but like, and then what? It bothers me. It's the untruths.
It is.
And it's mean. I think it's mean.
So if you're fat, stay in the house until you're not. That's essentially what she's saying. What a stupid f***ing mindset. You can absolutely be plus size and still experience fulfillment in your life. You can absolutely be fat and experience self-love and maintain good relationships with your loved ones. There's also plenty of plus size folks who are in loving and healthy relationships with partners who care deeply about them. I just don't understand this mindset of fat people needing to suffer because they don't fit societal beauty standards. Not only is it such a shallow way of looking at things, but it also doesn't help anyone. I mean, maybe it helps their fragile egos in the moment because they can feel a sense of superiority for 2 seconds while belittling fat people, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, you
This
don't
is bad
know.
advice.
Like when you coddle people, you handicap them.
Yeah.
When you coddle people, you handicap them. And it's so unbelievable that we can't be truthful with people because that's going to help them in the long run. Like they're going to lead a healthier, happier, more energetic life. They're going to have more of themselves to give. They're not going to be upset with themselves. They're going to be so much happier.
There's a difference between coddling and showing basic empathy. You can tell someone the truth and also be polite and respectful. The two aren't mutually exclusive. Even then, you should never comment on someone's weight without their consent. So again, stop acting like you care about fat people because you don't. You're not gonna help the plus size community by bullying them. It's also funny that they both mention truth because they're on the right, you know, the side that preaches facts over feelings, yet they've been spreading misinformation this entire time. Otherwise, they would consider that many factors contribute to someone being a larger size, and it's not just because they're lazy. They would understand how predatory the diet industry is. And finally, they would know that fat shaming does not work.
And to just submit yourself to a delusion just because it sounds good. Like I'm so sick of
just
stuff
because
that
you're being
sounds
woke.
good.
Yeah, sounds good. It's the caring thing. It's the kind. Be kind. If you want to be kind, tell them the truth.
Right. And
In a nice way, but this is not right.
Exactly. There are ideals. Like we can run away from it and say there's not an ideal way to be. There's not objective beauty. There's not things like that.
Yeah.
There is.
There is.
And
I
you're
mean,
just
it's just
helping-
life and it's truth, honestly.
Yeah, and it can be unfair.
You can live in a pretend woke clown world, but it's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
I already see it fading.
Yep.
People are over it. They're
Yep.
getting over it real fast.
Most people, including myself, would agree that life isn't fair. Most of the time, it sucks. We're all gonna deal with heartbreak, rejection, obstacles, hardships, failures, suffering. But why do we have to add to that? Why can't we at least try to make someone's life a little easier? Even if it's something as simple as being kind to others who look different than you. I should be careful. I don't want to slip off my soapbox, but we're going to stop there. Videos like this make me upset because as much as they want to claim that they're helping fat people by telling the truth, at the end of the day, this content isn't benefiting anyone. And these two ladies aren't the only ones guilty of this. I mean, there's plenty of videos on the internet making fun of the fat acceptance movement that will keep us busy until the end of the millennium. It's just a never-ending cycle of shittiness, and I hate it. I hate it. I will link all my sources in the description, as well as organizations that work to empower fat folks and fight against anti-fat bias in society. In the meantime, make sure to be nice to others, but most importantly, be nice to yourself. If you'd like to see me discuss fat phobia and body image more in the future, please let me know down below. And in general, if you'd like to see me talk about anything in particular, I have a Google form linked in the description where you could submit your video ideas. Thank you so much for powering through this video with me. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a tiny thumbs up. Subscribe down below. Thank you so much to ExpressVPN for sponsoring today's video. I love you guys, and I will see you next time with a brand new video. Bye!